Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming along. Today is actually the fifth video that we have done in all of the videos over the last few weeks. And this one is really focusing on how weight loss surgery impacts your overall mental health and your overall mental well-being as well. So what I want to talk about today is exactly that. I want to look at how it affects your mental health and mental well-being, but the types of things that you can be doing to help prevent that, help to counteract any of those issues that might be happening and might have an effect on your mental health. Everything that I do is about trying to do prevention as well as supporting people with the recovery process as well. I'm a firm believer that prevention is better than cure if we can, but at the end of the day, recovery is better than feeling like crap all the time. So recovery is definitely better than worst case scenarios and all of the wonderful stuff that comes with mental health issues. So I'm all about recovery and all about prevention, and today is covering both those topics. So let's have a look at some basics to start with. There's no point doing any of this if we don't start looking at the stats. So mental health and bariatric patients, this is a topic that's gone hand in hand for a very long time. 30 to 70% of those who are classified as obese experience some form of psychiatric disorder. What we're looking at is 16% of bariatric surgery patients have or are consulting with a mental health practitioner, but 39% of those are doing that after surgery. And if we already know that 30 to 70% of people are experiencing those issues before surgery, we're suddenly in a position where people aren't getting the support they might need before they have the surgery to help them with what the surgery is actually going to bring. 23% of bariatric candidates experience mood disorders. So this is things like 19% of those people are experiencing depression, 3 to 6% are experiencing bipolar, and 17% of people are diagnosed with BED, which is binge eating disorder. Got 20% of bariatric patients have attempted suicide, 17% of bariatric patients have self-harmed. Seven different studies, and this is now something people are studying more and more and more. In the past, when it came to obesity and bariatrics, everybody focused on the same thing: weight loss, weight loss, weight loss, and nobody was actually looking at what really causes the weight loss. This is assumption that it's just eating too much creates the weight loss. But eating itself is an outcome of something else. It's a coping mechanism. And therefore, it's important for us to understand what's causing the need for us to have a coping mechanism that then forces us to overeat. So more and more studies are now focusing on that element as well, with regards to what are the psychological elements of bariatric surgery. So there's 7 different studies that have been recently done, and what they showed was between 8 and 74% decrease in depression symptoms after surgery, which is why more and more doctors are now recommending to people who are in the obese categories to have surgery, because it not only helps with your physical health, but it's a huge boost to your mental health as well. Post-surgery, 15% of bariatric patients see their depression symptoms decrease. Now, what this really means is a lot of those issues that may have been related specifically to the weight, they can be reduced. Those of us who are already feeling great because we've got the weight loss. For those of us who may have been experiencing low moods before that, it starts to lift us. But it doesn't mean it resolves everything. What we have to remember is weight loss surgery does not resolve our mental health issues. What it does is it starts to release some of the pressures and some of the stress we might be feeling because of our obesity. But it's still down to us to manage the mental health side of the process. Now, the way it works is after surgery, you're going to be dealing with quite a lot. And for those of us who are going through it, we already know this, but sometimes it might just be a really good reminder. And for those of you who haven't had your surgery yet, it's really important to be aware of this. I don't want anybody to be scared of what's coming, because I think almost everybody says the good outweighs the bad, but you want a few less bumps in the road if you possibly can. So one of the things most people experience is a negative body image. So although people have lost the weight, what they see when they look in the mirror is not what they like. It could be that they've still got that image of the fat person they didn't like. It could be that they can't see, like I can't see, all the 12 chins that I'm losing. You still see the chins. It could be actually the way their body's changing, the shape of their body, the excess skin, all of these things. They just might not like the look of that as well. So a negative body image is very common after bariatric surgery. Relationship issues are also very common. And this could be something as simple as people having relationship issues prior to surgery and thinking that actually losing the weight would help with that, or confidence would help with that. It can bring new problems to a relationship because it is a bumpy road, and suddenly not being able to eat out as often or go out drinking with your partner can cause problems. Having to go through such dramatic adjustments with your family and your friends can create some major issues for you. So there can be definitely some relationship issues after surgery. We've also got potentially some issues with time management and social anxiety. So with time management, you're looking at new lifestyle goals that are going to need you to consciously focus on them for a while. So balancing your new schedule with your old life can feel very overwhelming, and I was very open about this last week. This was week 5 for me was my worst week, and this was the reason for it. Trying to balance my new schedule and my new regime with what my old work life was like felt almost impossible, and I just felt like I was completely overwhelmed. And so by consciously putting a bit more time and effort into time management this week, I've started to boost that low mood that had really been dragging me down by the end of last week. And then social anxiety is very common because your social interactions can be very different. You might find that you don't want to go out and hang out with the people that you hang out with. You might be in a situation where you're scared to go to social events and social groups, just simply because you don't want to answer the questions, you don't want the judgments and all of those kind of things. And it can really be strange when you start to get noticed and have this newfound attention from people that you've never had before and you've never experienced before. And that can also, again, heighten this concept of social anxiety and being a bit fearful of being in groups. Each of these issues can cause a lot of stress after your surgery. And if you look back at the previous video, we talk about how stress then, sadly, affects our weight loss as well. So it's really important to understand what's happening to us after surgery, what's happening to our mental health and our thought patterns, our behaviors and our feelings, so we can try to counteract them as soon as possible and improve them as soon as possible, so that we can have a healthy mind, which helps with a healthy body, that helps with that ongoing weight loss, which is what we all want. But really, it's why are we losing the weight? And we're losing the weight so we can have a happier, healthier life. Now, as I said, there's been lots of different research pieces been happening in the last few years. And in June 2020, they did an online survey using 2 of the most common psychological questionnaires. So a patient health questionnaire, which is questionnaire 9, and a questionnaire 7, which is a generalized anxiety disorder one as well. Now, in the world of psychology and psychotherapy, we use these to identify the different levels that people might be with regards to the different mental health issues. And they used it to be able to identify what was happening to people post-surgery. And the results were in that 30.4% were developing depression and 33% had developed anxiety, whether that be generalized anxiety, OCD, or health anxiety post-surgery. So the conclusion really for that is there's a higher prevalence of depression and anxiety disorders in bariatric surgery patients, especially within the first 2 years. And we've talked about this in previous sessions with regards to how vulnerable our mental health is after surgery because of the amount of change chemically and hormonally that takes place in the body. And in those first 2 years, we're going through such dramatic change mentally, physically, and socially. Change can create that high level of stress, and stress is like a gateway to all of those mental health areas. So what, obviously, as you can imagine, all psychologists would recommend is that in order to tackle the life after bariatric surgery, if you are experiencing mental health issues, they recommend you go down 2 forms of resolve, which is medication, so anxiety medication, depression medication if you can, if it's needed, increase your dosage potentially, or change your medication if you're already on it if you need to, but also the psychotherapy side, which is the 2-prong approach that I would recommend to as many clients as I can. And that is, the medication removes or reduces the symptoms, which gives you the freedom of mind to work through what is actually creating or triggering those mental health issues in the first place. So it's that 2-prong approach. Reduce the symptoms, resolve the trigger point, and together that is how you work through mental health issues. So I wanted to just give you that so you've got a little bit of understanding that if you are experiencing low mood, depression, anxiety, if your health anxiety is increasing or your social anxiety is increasing, if you are finding that you are worried and concerned on a regular basis and it's starting to affect your life, you really are not on your own. It is more common than you think, and it doesn't necessarily last forever. What a lot of people have identified is that increased mental health issues post-surgery can be very temporary, but it doesn't stop them feeling so horrific. So it is important that as soon as we identify them, we're able to deal with them as quickly as we possibly can. Now, for those of you who know me, I talk about my 8 Whys program all the time, but what I wanted to do today is really demonstrate to you how, if you are to break down those trigger points that might be creating that mental health surge for you after surgery, and start to look at how to problem solve them in those 8 categories, it becomes a much more manageable process. So you don't have to go, I've got to deal with all of this straight away. You can go, right, I can deal with these little bits step by step, bite by bite, and therefore it won't feel so overwhelming. And what it does is help you to create a really good action plan for your overall mental health and mental well-being. So I'm not going to go into this in too much detail because obviously you've got the previous videos to go through. I think video 1 covers this in a bit more detail. But what you've got there in front of you is the 8 core areas of the 8 Whys model. It starts at the top there with the lovely love heart, which that represents your emotional wellness. The shoe down here represents your physical wellness. To the left here, we've got your spiritual wellness. Directly opposite in yellow is your intellectual wellness. Down here in green is your environmental wellness. Orange is your social wellness. The lilac there is your occupational wellness, and the blue is your financial wellness. These are really important because what tends to happen is the life events we experience, they tend to link to one or more of these wellness areas. And if these wellness areas don't stay balanced, that's when we can start to see our stress levels increase, which means that potentially our anxiety levels, burnout, and our depression symptoms can increase as well. So the key is to really, if we know we've got those signs and symptoms, start to look at which of these areas of our overall wellness have been triggered, balance them back out, and then what we've got is a slightly better way of managing our mental health overall. So that's ultimately what it is, a formula for managing mental health. I call it learning to live the 8 Whys way, and you can learn to live the 8 Whys way for better mental health, better mental well-being, and in this case, bariatric success as well. If you want to know more about it, the video, as I said, is on the under features on the Facebook page. You can head to the website for a bit more information, and obviously I talk about it all the time. The book is out there as well, so I'm not going to go into that in a lot more detail. But what I want to do is help you out to show you how you can break it down and to identify the types of problems that you might have with regards to each of these 8, and what you can do to implement pretty much straight away to start counteracting them and start getting that balance in place and reducing the stress levels, therefore reducing the signs and symptoms of longer term mental health issues like anxiety and depression. So number 1, we've got emotional wellness. It always comes first because obviously we tend to feel things before anything else. So we focus on emotional wellness first. So the problems that you might have post-surgery, Emotional regulation. Our emotions can feel like they are completely all over the place. For lots of different reasons. It could be that we're struggling with food. It could be that we're struggling with water intake. It could be that, you know, it's really hard to manage everything with a family, or it's really hard to manage everything now we've gone back into work. It could be that you really miss the lifestyle you had at Christmas. There's so many different reasons as to why we might feel that emotional regulation. And what I mean by emotional regulation is that emotions are controlling you and you're not able to regulate them and manage them. So in order, if we know the problem is emotional regulation, to regulate your emotions, the first thing you've got to do is be able to identify the emotion you are feeling. And I have put in the features again, there's the document there, the emotions wheel, to help you do that. When you know the emotion that you're feeling, you then need to be able to identify the cause of that emotion. So what has happened that day, that week, that month? What has triggered you? So when you know the cause of the emotion, you can then start to problem solve that particular cause. But again, remembering these two children on a seesaw, emotional child is high. To balance the emotion, you've got to bring the logic in, you've got to bring the rationale in. So you've got to start looking at what is the reason I'm feeling this, and what can I think about doing to actually bring in that logical thinking to balance it out a bit more. So that's if you've got emotional irregulation. Now, if over a period of time you've naturally developed what we call a conditioned negative mindset. Now, the people ask you, is the glass half empty or half full? That kind of concept. The truth of the matter is, if anybody ever asks you, it doesn't matter, because you've always got the glass, and that's what we're really looking for you to answer, okay? There's a little bit of insight for you. It's irrelevant what you've got in the glass. The fact is, you own the glass, so you can have whatever you want whenever you want in it. But a conditioned negative mindset naturally leads towards what's going to go wrong, worst case scenario, or that internal dialogue of, I can't do this, I'm going to mess it up, I'm going to fail again. All of that rubbish that clogs us up. The only way to handle a conditioned negative mindset is to reframe your mind. And the way to do that is identify the negative thought you're having, ask yourself, what if the opposite of this were true? And then ask yourself it, and then focus on what that would look like. When you focus on that thought, you repeat it as often as necessary. Remembering, practice makes perfect. If we can learn something consciously and we can reframe our mind consciously, eventually, practice, it becomes part of our subconscious. And before you know it, your mindset has changed. But you have to commit to the process. And if you've got your other problem of dysfunctional eating behaviors, what we know is this is led by emotional eating, and you need to be able to handle the emotional eating side of it, because that's going to be the biggest downfall of bariatric success if we don't. So you've got to identify mental hunger versus physical hunger. You need to stop, you need to think about that and really be able to identify which one you're experiencing. You need to focus on the 20-20-20 concept of mindful eating, which every single dietitian is telling us all now. It's a good way of stopping, living in the moment, and not doing what certainly I do, which is like that. Well, keep going. I've got no idea of just eating a pack of biscuits. And then I want more biscuits because I never realized I ate one in the first place. So you've got to do the mindful eating. You've got to be really prepared to counteract it. So if you know you're an emotional eater, and you know that stress is what causes your emotional eating, you need to be prepared to manage the stress and counteract it when it kicks in. There's no point saying, oh, well, I ate it because, I suffer with stress. In the nicest way, whoop-de-doo, you suffer with stress, as does all of the other 6 billion people on the planet. The difference for you is it triggers something that makes you physically and mentally unhealthy. So it's up to you to identify the ways to be prepared to handle that stress in a different way. And then the other one is remove the guilt. And when it comes to eating, especially when we overeat or we get those days wrong where it just doesn't work, we tend to have guilt. And the reality of it is, guilt comes from, we've created this almost like our own list of 10 commandments in our head, and we've told ourselves that they are completely accurate and they're right, and if we don't follow them, then we are really bad, evil, disgusting, ugly people. When the truth of the matter is, they're your commandments. You made them. If they don't work for you, change them. That's the power that you have when it comes to emotional eating. But we're going to cover emotional eating in a lot more detail in the weeks ahead. When you are looking at your physical wellness, your problems are things like your food struggles, your aches and pains after surgery, and your exhaustion and your low energy. So with regards to the food struggles, you need to focus on your gut health and your nutrition. Because ultimately your gut is what we classify as the second brain, it's the trigger point for a lot of mental health problems. So you've got to make sure that you keep a healthy gut. That means your water, that means your nutrition, and it also means not eating or overeating the slider foods, because actually what happens in your gut, if you have too many in your gut, it seeps out or it leaks from your gut and it goes into your bloodstream. And that's when we have those worst case scenarios with our health as well. So we've got to increase our serotonin levels. We need to balance our macros in a healthy way. So we need to, I know the bariatric process is constantly gone on at us, you know, get your protein, get your protein, get your protein. But your fiber is equally important, and your fats are important, and your carbohydrates are important, and a balanced diet is also very important. So lead with your protein, 100% lead with it, but don't forget the other parts of the diet as well. Otherwise your body and your mind just won't be able to function properly. Increase your gut protective foods. So this is those foods that naturally lead to good gut health. So anything that's pickled is really, really good. Kimchi's really good. Sauerkraut's really good. All of these things are really healthy for your gut, and they'll make your gut very healthy as well. So it's definitely worth having a look at those if you can. Okay, so then we've got plan ahead. Obviously, if you know you've got your food struggles, you've got to plan ahead. Find the foods you can eat. Make sure you've always got them in the house. Make sure you can always take them with you when you need to, okay? Aches and pains are normal after surgery. Everything is reducing, changing, and moving around. And it can be very easy to get trapped in the, oh my God, this must mean there's something really horrific happening, increasing that health anxiety element. But actually what you're going to find is your muscles are aching more because you're losing muscle mass. And unless you're doing something to rebuild muscle, you're just losing muscle mass. So your body's going to ache because you need that muscular support to be able to be a strong frame and to be able to carry you well. So you've got to find the exercises that you can do on a daily basis that help you to manage those aches and pains. So ultimately, your solution to this is move more. I wish it was sit on the sofa and just watch the new Sex and the City. I've looked everywhere. I've read every piece of research you can to find that someone would say Sarah Jessica Parker is the answer to this. But sadly, it's not. We've got to get off our bums and move more. So low intensity exercise, not high intensity exercise, is better for us in the first few months. That's your walking, that's your yoga, that's your swimming. If you want to go out there and lift your 12 kilogram kettlebells, I'm not going to stop you, Sharon. But just be aware that ongoing lower intensity exercises are actually better longer term for your mental health. But don't be scared to push yourself. Get out there and do lots of things and work at what you do like, such as triathlons. And I really do think we should consider a trip to Torquay to celebrate our wonderful person who is going to be doing one soon. Daily stretches. Start your day with stretches, end your day with stretches. In fact, I've got some visuals for stretches you should do every day. I will put them in the group so you can start looking at how you incorporate them. Walking every day. We are, unlike other animals, we are born to be upright, and therefore we need to move in order to keep the upright position functioning. So walking every day is absolutely crucial. Obviously, they recommend 10,000 steps, but anything is better than nothing to start with. So make sure you're walking every day, even if it's just round the block. Incorporate weights for strength, because if you are losing muscle mass because you're losing so much weight so quickly, you need to rebuild some of that strength as soon as you can. And weight training is the best way of doing this. Now, I know a lot of people are freaking out with the thought, I don't want to do weight training, it puts all the weight back on. What I'm saying to you is this: weights burn more calories and they burn them for longer. So although you might actually feel like you weigh heavier, Remembering your weight on the scale represents your muscles, your bones, your blood, all of your organs, all of that. It doesn't tell you about fat loss. For fat loss, having some form of weight training in your life is better. So don't be scared of the weights. Just don't throw yourself into it too soon, and make sure you learn how to do it properly if you're going to go down that route. One of the other issues with our physical wellness is that exhaustion and low energy, because as we're identifying, we're not necessarily getting in the amount of calories that we need to function, and especially for those of us who have started some exercise. So we can feel exhausted and we can have that low energy, and that can make us feel crappy and lead to that low mood. So we've got to look at how we can re-energize. And the number one thing is improve your sleep. Get good quality sleep. And if you don't have good quality sleep, you need to focus on getting good quality sleep. You are the most wonderfully intelligent computer alive on this planet. And like every computer, it needs to be switched off, it needs to rest, it needs to do all of its reboots, and then when it comes back on, it functions brilliantly. That's what sleep is for you. So you need to be getting your sleep. You need to be able to balance how much time you rest. And a really good way of this is almost measure the busyness of your days. If you measure them, it's a really simple CPD exercise of measuring them 1 to 4. So 1 is a non-stressful day, 4 is crazy busy stress. If you've got too many 4s in the week, you need to make sure you've got some 1s in the week to balance it out. If there's too many 3s, you need to bring a 1 or a 2 in. So you've got to balance your week based on how busy and how stressful the week has been. If you have 7 days of 4s at high level stress, high level busyness, you're going to burn out very, very quickly. If you have too many 1s, you will become so, basically you lose your stimulation in life and so demotivated, it leads to that low mood. So you want to make sure that it's balanced. Ideally, the perfect world is a range of all 4, but 1 or 2s and 3s and 4s, but not the same every single day. You need to do your learning. You need to learn relaxation techniques. Yes, meditation is good. Breathing exercises are the first one to go with though. Breathing exercises, then meditation, then some form of headspace. For my clients, on my private clients, I recommend they do some form of meditation, breathing work or headspace 3 times a day, 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, lunchtime, and in the evening. So you build yourself up, you prepare for the day, you do it at lunchtime to reduce any of the stress that was created through the first half of the day and prepare you for the second half of the day, and then you do it at night to basically de-stress from the whole day. 5 to 10 minutes. All of us have 5 to 10 minutes. We can make 5 to 10 minutes happen. We just need to find the space to do it. And worst case scenario, I tell my clients to lock themselves in the toilet for 5 minutes, put their earphones in, listen to a Headspace app for 5 minutes, and that is a really good starting position. And then we also need to learn to rest our muscles. So a PMR activity, which I put in a previous video, is good for that. A hot bath, hot bubble baths are good for that. Massage, go and get yourselves a massage if you can, and that will start to help with these as well. When you look at your spiritual wellness, I'm not going to go through all of these in lots of detail because you're going to obviously have access to all of the slides. But I just wanted to go through in a bit more detail the first 3, because the first 3 are probably the big 3. After that, you can pretty much work through it yourself. So when it comes to spiritual wellness, the 3 core problem areas we have post-surgery. Number 1, identity crisis. Who am I now? Who am I if I can't drink those pints of Prosecco now? Who am I if I can't eat out every single night of the week? Who am I if I'm not that person of a certain size, wearing those certain clothes and living my life a certain way? So we start to have an identity crisis. So the way to provide a solution for that is learn to gain self-acceptance. You need to identify your values and your core beliefs. That's because they basically navigate everything we do in life. Everything we do is based on what we believe and our core value base. So we need to identify them. We need to understand them to the extent we need to understand them, so we understand why we respond and we react to certain things and certain people in our life. And it's usually because whatever we're experiencing If it doesn't sit with our values or sit with our beliefs, it can feel like this in our minds. It feels like there's an issue there. If you've ever experienced having a conversation with somebody and you going, I just don't feel right after that conversation. I don't know exactly what they said that's triggered me, but I just didn't like it, or I just don't like them. And it's usually because something they've said has counteracted your core values and your core beliefs, and that's the reaction it's left with you. When you know your values, when you know your beliefs, you then need to learn to manifest them into the life you're going to live, which means don't just know them, live by them, because they are ultimately the most important thing in your life, because they are who you are. They are what are guiding you. And ultimately as well, what you've got to do is just accept them. You don't have to say, I have this with a lot of my private clients, and it's always lovely. And I'll say, go on, tell me what your values are. Well, kindness to everybody, lots of love for everybody. And they come out with these wonderful ideas of what values are. And some of them, yeah, if it's genuine, great, but most of it isn't. And then when you work through it, you know, someone says, actually, no, I'm money orientated for this reason, but I don't like myself because of it. But that's your core value. And if it's a core value, it's okay. Just understand how it works for you and how it works against you, and make sure you're getting the best out of it rather than just the bad stuff. And if you do want to work out what your values are, then you can get in touch with me and I can send you some bits and pieces that will help with that. This is all a part of self-acceptance. If you can get to the stage of self-acceptance, it means that your self-esteem starts to grow a little bit more, and I will cover that in a minute. It also means that confidence starts to grow. It means your assertiveness starts to grow. You don't apologize for just being you anymore. You don't need to justify yourself anymore. You own you, and you own your thoughts and your feelings, and you own your responses. You will feel like a stronger person if you can get to that stage. Post-surgery can leave us feeling really, really overwhelmed. And a lot of that overwhelm comes from the fact that we haven't created for ourselves really strong boundaries for us to live by in our bariatric way. And we need to have strong boundaries. In order to go through this process, there are some really strict rules and regulations. And if we don't create boundaries around ourselves and the life we're living to help us with those, then ultimately we're going to constantly feel overwhelmed. So you've got to look at your life and identify what are the areas that you've got no boundaries. Are you that person that says yes to work all the time? Are you that person who says yes when friends ask you for something? Are you that person? Are you always the person who's giving and not necessarily receiving the same back? If that's the case, you haven't got some solid boundaries in place, and you probably just need to put some solid boundaries in place to help you out a little bit there. So identify the areas with no boundaries, develop some new boundaries, align a new routine to those new boundaries. Routine is crucial for mental health. Humans don't necessarily like change. We will learn to adjust and we will learn to adapt. But when we're going through phases of change, it tends to be when we are most vulnerable to stress and other mental health issues. So we need to create boundaries that map to our routines, and routines that map to our boundaries to help us through that process. And the big one is, don't just write them in a planner. Don't just write them in a journal. Don't just write them and put them on your fridge. Commit to actually living your life by them. Put your money where your mouth is. If you know that's what you need to do, then do it. Because if you don't make the change, well, you're just going to go back to where you were. And I wish it was different to that, but it isn't. If you want to make positive change, you've got to move forward. The only way to move forward is to commit to new things, new processes, new ways of doing things. And another thing that we can have post-surgery is that limited self-belief. We've heard it from a few different people earlier, where it starts to kick in, it starts to trigger in with regards to, I can't do this, I failed before, there's 1% of the people it doesn't work for, I'm going to be one of that 1%. And everybody on here is so lovely and honest about how they feel about things. But that limited self-belief is just linked to your self-esteem. And your self-esteem just comes down to what your self-worth is really all about. So what you've got to do to be able to boost that self-esteem, you've got to start looking at identifying those conditions or situations that really trigger it and really trouble you. Become aware, really aware of your thoughts and your beliefs. Accept the thoughts as just thoughts and not as facts. Just because we think something doesn't mean it's true. Be able to identify the difference, that a thought has come in, okay, is it true? Have I got evidence to support it? Is it accurate? Thought is up there with that emotional link. Have I got evidence? Have I got anything that proves it? No. Boom, you've balanced out that seesaw. You've brought your rational mindset in. Always challenge inaccuracy with evidence. And therefore, if your thoughts are not factual, find the facts. Live your life by the facts. So that's just a little bit about the spiritual wellness side as well. Now, your other areas is intellectual wellness. So your problems usually with intellectual wellness are living in your comfort zone and not willing to change it, constantly being bored and therefore leading you to boredom eating or low mood, or struggling to find time for yourself, and it is struggling to find time. And I appreciate sometimes that's struggling to find it because your life is so busy, and other times it's struggling to find the time because you simply don't know what to do. And either way, they can be resolved. Your solution for your comfort zone is learn to develop a growth comfort zone or a growth zone. And I'll send out some information over the next few weeks with regards to that. With regards to boredom, you've got to put in place some new learning and then put in place some new action. Get creative, get productive. You've got to actually stop yourself from being bored, because you're the only one who can stop yourself from being bored. And no time for self-care. I wish I could put this anyway. Tough. You've got to put some time in for self-care, because that's the only way you can de-stress. Therefore, it's the only way to reduce all of your risk of developing worst case mental health situations because you didn't look after yourself in the first place. For those of us who've been obese, which is every single person on this call, we did not look after ourselves. I am not gonna fluff it up for you. That's what it is in a nutshell. We put ourselves last. We didn't care for ourselves. We didn't look after ourselves. The number one thing we have to change is make ourselves a priority. We have to make ourselves a priority, put in that self-care, learn some new things, develop some new things, and make us matter, because we do matter. So that's how you're going to counteract your intellectual wellness areas. When it comes to environmental wellness, your core problems are going to be home chaos, no control at work, and living in limbo land, or being in limbo land when you can't be where your safe spaces are. So at your solutions at home, you've got to create a safe environment. And I mean that, know what your danger areas are, declutter what is around you, understand what's in reach that causes you that wanting to reach out and open the cupboard and open the door. And create a special timeout zone for yourself somewhere in your home that when you know things getting on top of you, you can go and hide. If that means you are going to hide behind a shower curtain, hanging around your bath so you can get 5 minutes just to go, perfectly fine. But find yourself the timeout zone so you've got a safe space just to bring yourself back down when everything's getting on top of you. When it comes to work, you need to create a safe work environment. So again, you've got to know your danger areas. You've got to create the safe spaces. So make sure if you have got a desk in an office, that you've got all of the good stuff in your office, that you're not sat near the chocolates or in the eye line of the chocolates, all of that kind of stuff. Learn to be proactive, not reactive, meaning if you know going into the office is going to cause you problems, take something with you, change things around, take control where you can take control. And always have a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. A plan A is what you're first going to come up with, and it might be, right, I am planning to take my lunch into work with me every single day. Brilliant. Now, plan A might all go tits up in the nicest way if you get into the office and everybody goes, oh my God, I haven't seen everybody for ages, let's do lunch. And you go, okay, oh, and the panic starts to kick in. But it's okay, because you've got a plan B. You know where the best places to go for lunch near your office are going to be. So that's your plan B. And then someone goes, all right, but I think we should go here. It's just opened. I've never been. And you're like, it's cool. I've got a plan C, because I pretty much know exactly what foods I can eat anywhere I go. And therefore, as long as I just focus on them, I'll be okay. Plan A, plan B, plan C. And if you are in doubt of these plans, go back and have a look and watch the wonderful, wonderful TV show that is so close to real life, The A-Team. Because the A-Team Never ever won on their plan A. Their plan A, it went wrong every single time. It was a brilliant plan, but it always went wrong. Their brilliant montage moments were when they were getting creative and they were putting their plan B or their plan C together, because that's what really matters. You need to be able to adjust. And if you're in limbo land, like you have to travel a lot with work, or you have to do lots of transition, or you're going on holiday, or you've got to go and see the in-laws, or all of this stuff that happens, again, know your danger areas, develop your toolkits, pack your bags for success, and don't be scared to ask for help, ask if things can be changed, and don't be scared to share your situation. If you are in a restaurant and that restaurant doesn't provide you what you need, don't be scared to say, I have recently had surgery. You don't have to give them the details. Let them think what they want. But you've got to say, I've recently had surgery. I don't want to waste your ingredients. Is it possible that I could have this instead? Promise you, most places are going to say yes, because they still want your money. That's as simple as that is. Now, another big one is social wellness. This is when people contact me, and I get quite a lot of messages every day from people in this group, and obviously I've got lots of private clients and other groups. But the social wellness stuff is probably the one that gets most of us down the most. And it's because it's people, and people upset us, and they don't mean to, but they do. Number one problem post-surgery is not feeling that you have the support from the people that are in your life, and it's a hard one. Problem being, we can't control people. They're going to do what they want to do. They're going to think what they want to think. They're going to say what they want to say. So what we have to do is we need to counteract that. Big one is obviously support groups. So it's identify your unsupportive groups and your unsupportive people. And very simply, I wish it was any easier than this, but just spend less time with them as much as you can. If they're not helping you and they're making you worse, then they're not good for you at this moment in time. So just reduce the time you spend with them. Identify the support groups and the supportive people in your life. And the other easy bit, spend more time with them. That's as easy as it can be. We can't change what people think, do, feel, or anything else. We can just choose if we want to spend time with them. And if that's our moment, that's our power, that's our control. So just change the time around. Spend less time with those that don't bring out the best. Spend more time with those that do. There's a lot of conflicting information out there at the moment with regards to this. And if all of you belong to all of the different Facebook groups that I used to, then it can be overwhelming to go onto a Facebook group at the moment and be asking all of these questions, and 25,000 different people are responding with 25,000 ways of doing stuff. And everybody's so very, very supportive and opinionated in the way they wish to share their information sometimes. So what you've got to be able to do is identify the difference between accurate information and simple hearsay. So identify the accurate sources of information. So when it comes to food, that is your dietitian. When it comes to surgery and how you heal after surgery, that is your surgeon. If it's with regards to how you're feeling, your mental health, it is your therapist. Focus on the people who give you accurate information. The hearsay is different people picking up different bits of information from all of these different sources, and it just gets all kerfuzzled is the word of the day. And for those of you who've been on yo-yo diets for an entire lifetime now, that tends to be where our heads were at before surgery, confuzzled with what we should and shouldn't do. So we don't want this process to be that as well. So identify accurate sources of information. Identify sources of opinion, not fact, and remove the opinion, not fact sources out of your life. If that means leaving Facebook groups, if that means scrolling past things, if that means not talking to certain people, then do right by yourself. Put a boundary in place for yourself and actually say, no, I only want factual information. And record the accurate source and the accurate information you receive. Because then if you want to be supportive of other people, you know where to point them. You know what direction to point them in so they can also have accurate information and not be bombarded with the hearsay information and the opinions. One of the biggest things an awful lot of bariatric patients worry about is the opinions of others when it comes to letting people know that they've had the surgery. And we know, okay, a lot of people don't like the idea of this surgery. So what? So what? I don't like a lot of the things in the world, but we don't need to share it. You need to identify a way for yourself to share your story with who you want to in the way that you want to. And if there is a big blocker there for you, have a think about, identify what that exact fear is. What are you really worried about them saying, and what does that mean? Always find a way of preparing a comfortable answer for yourself. If you don't want to say you've had surgery and someone says, oh my God, you look amazing, how have you done it? There's nothing wrong in saying the truth. I had to really focus on what I was eating. I've had to move more, and I've had to change my lifestyle. That is all 100% accurate. They don't need to know that someone has been inside your body and changed some stuff around. It's not like you walk up to some stranger on the street going, you look good, tell me about your bowels. No one asks, you don't do that to people. So you don't have to tell them what's going on with your stomach area. It is your private bits if you want them to be private. You don't have to share it. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing it, then find a comfortable answer for yourself. And prepare an end statement. So if you are willing to share your story, and you know by doing that you are going to get a very specific response, prepare an end statement. So I share my favorite one all the time when people say, oh, bariatric surgery, oh, you cheated then. And I get pumped up, and I always go, cheated? My life and my health is not a game. If yours is, then I feel sorry for you. But mine is a lifestyle choice, and a healthy lifestyle choice. Boom, drop the mic, walk away. I'm a winner. They remain a dickhead. Okay? So ultimately, you've got to end the statement. You have to take the power. You have to take the control. They can think what they like, but you know why you did this, and you know damn well this is not cheating. It's probably the hardest thing that any human will ever have to go through with regards to weight loss. You're not cheating, and you don't need to justify it to someone who just simply doesn't know and doesn't understand. And to do that, you have to probably learn the biggest one of them all, is to be assertive. It is okay to upset people sometimes. It is okay to go, no, I'm not having it anymore. It's okay to say no and remove yourself from a situation, and it's okay to no longer be a doormat or somebody that is easy to walk over or talk into things. You don't have to be that person if you don't want to be it. Sharing your story, it's your story. You choose how to share it. You choose who you want to share it with. People's thoughts, their opinions on it, it's not going to stop your journey. So don't give them the power. Ultimately, that's what that comes down to. When it comes to your occupational wellness, this is all about what's happening in work. So we know problems, work-life balance, struggling to meet our own personal needs. You know, we've been working from home for ages. Brilliant. And we've set up all of these new routines. Or like our lovely Raquel, whose job is insane and she's constantly over bodies that are open. It's not like she can eat her tuna salad there. We've got to really think about how we are going to meet these new needs, bariatric needs within the workplace. Or we've got the situation of low energy because of the lack of everything that's going in the body that can cause us lack of concentration, which can then affect our productivity. When it comes to work-life balance, health first, always health first. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. It's on the screen in front of you. Health first. Reality, if you work yourself into the ground for an employer, literally, you worked yourself and you had a stroke or a heart attack because you've worked yourself into the ground for an employer, they would have a job advert out there ready to replace you before your funeral. That's how much you mean to every employer. That's not because they're bad people, but because that's how it's a business. It's not an emotional individual. So therefore, you've got to put your health first, because with all the best intentions and with all the lip service they will give you, they never will, because it's not their role. You've got to do it for yourself. If you're struggling to meet your bariatric needs because trying to map the two together is hard, you've got to be assertive and put your own needs first. Map your bariatric routine to your work routine. And this is what I'm having to do right now. So I was a right proper whinge bucket about my stuff last week, because I was really struggling to match my bariatric routine to my work routine. And I was like, oh, the world's against me. Oh, woe is me. And I went down this whole rabbit hole of it, and I was proper miserable. I was at proper like, ugh, nobody wanted to see me on Friday, honest to God. If I could have got my hands on like a big block of Cadbury's, I was there like that. That's how I would have done it. And then I realized they're my routines. I can do whatever I want with them. I can change things around if I want. And that's what I'm learning to do this week. So you've got to be able to put your own needs first, map your bariatric needs to your work routine, have those conversations with your manager and your HR teams if you need to. Check in with yourself throughout the day to make sure those routines are actually where you need them to be. Prepare, plan, and then prepare again. Nice and simple. Low energy, the only way to deal with it, you've got to get your water intake in. Hydration is absolutely crucial. Don't wait to the end of the day to get your water in so that you can tick it off on My Fitness Pal later. Most importantly, get it in the morning. That will feed your brain with all the water for the rest of the day. Eat regular as often as you can, and eat clean as often as you can. That simply means as limited horrible processed food as possible. And I know with what we're going through now, the processed stuff that's on the shelves is a lot easier than having to cook 4 prawns and half a piece of beetroot. I know it's not easy, but the processed stuff, when we're already got low energy and poor concentration, just makes it worse. Meditate, headspace 2 to 3 times a day, as I've already said, and reduce and remove your stimulants, coffee, sugar, as much as you can, because they don't actually help your brain. And then financial stuff, problems post-surgery, financial stress, increasing bariatric costs, and what are the essentials now, because your essentials change. So you need to understand money, and you need to understand the core stress triggers of it for you. You need to find the new cost of living the bariatric way, because there are new things you need to take into consideration that you would never have taken into consideration before, like protein shakes, protein waters, vitamins, different flavor vitamins, different trying of vitamins. I'm going to try 20 different vitamins to find the favorite vitamin, etc., etc. There's going to be new costs. And then you've got to start to identify what the new essentials are and what the beneficials are. So if you need to start spending more money on different things, because that's now a new essential, such as, for example, a gym membership, then you need to start looking at that. This means things like budgeting and all of that kind of stuff. And if you have never budgeted before and this is something that you want some support with, then definitely get in touch with me, because I've got some documents and stuff that can help you with that. And I can put you in the right place for getting some support with that. Once upon a time, when I was a student, I know I've got the face of an angel, but I used to work in debt recovery. That's what I did. I was that horrible person on the phone that would ring up and say, you haven't paid this and you have to pay now. I never said it like that. But I used to spend most of my time doing financial plans for people to help people be able to get out of the debt or just re-budget so that they could actually have more of an income stream. So I've got some tools that I can send you if you need them. But that is a way of looking at how all of the different types of problems that can happen post-surgery, if you just looked at them and go, oh my God, I've got all of them, it's really difficult to manage. But if you can break them down into these smaller problems that are a little bit easier to resolve, then actually you're back in control of the situation. It's not so overwhelming. As I said, that's what I call ultimately living the 8 wise way, allowing yourself to take something big, break it down into 8 bite-sized chunks, understand how those 8 areas are affecting you, and problem solve them one by one. And like I said, if you go to my website, there's a load of free tools there. There's loads of free assessments and stuff there that you can use. But ultimately, what we know post-surgery, the bariatric process affects our emotional wellness because we become incredibly emotional. We become almost irrational with our emotions. We know it affects us physically because our nutrition changes, our energy levels change. Physically, we've changed. We're either functioning in a different way, or we've got, you know, 1/3, 2/3 less of an organ, or there's something restricting it quite dramatically. We're either strangling the organ, cutting the organ away, or completely saying, you're not my friend anymore, I'm going to bypass you. That's what the surgery's done. So we know there's going to be affecting our wellness there. We know it starts to affect who we are as a person because we are changing, and it's all for the good, but change can be difficult, and we need to really reconnect with who we are. It changes our life, and it can feel like suddenly the life we had before is dead and we don't know what to do with ourselves, and that can become very boring for us. So we know we've got to sort that out. We know that our safety zones need to be looked at, so our environmental wellness is definitely affected. So we need to create those safe spaces for us so we can be successful in this process. We know not everybody is supportive. It is what it is, but some people are going to surprise you and offer you more support than you ever realized. So it's find those support systems. We can't you know, unless we're all lucky enough to win the lottery this weekend and give up work, then most of us have got to work every single day. So we've got to find a way of making sure that work aligns to the new lifestyle. And we've got to make sure that financially we don't just commit to paying for surgery, for example, if that's what we've done, but that we can actually do all the rest of the bits that come with it afterwards as well. So we know the surgery affects us on all 8 levels, so we need to be able to counteract it in all 8 ways as well. It means checking in with yourself regularly. And by checking in with yourself, it means know your 5 signs, know if your personality has changed, know if you're becoming agitated, know if you're becoming withdrawn, know if you've got poor self-care and hygiene, and know if you've got those feelings of hopelessness. That is telling you that your mental health is taking a dip. And when it comes to your mental health, there is no black and white. It's a continuum. You will constantly be swinging between these 5 areas. If you think about average, we should be surviving, and they're the types of thought processes or symptoms we might experience when we're surviving. Ideally, what happens if we're checking in with ourselves regularly enough, surviving and struggling is as low as it should ever go. And as soon as it gets low, we should then be able to implement strategies that pull us up to thriving and excelling. And because we want to feel all these wonderful things underneath thriving and excelling. But if we're struggling and we really do end up going into crisis, then we really need to look for help and get help. Anybody who is feeling that they are in crisis definitely 100% needs to go and get support from a counsellor, some form of therapist. So either speak to your doctor or get in touch with me, and I will be able to point you in the right direction of those types of things in your area if that's what you need. But ideally, if you're checking in with yourself regularly, you're checking those previous 5, and then you're really seeing, where am I on the continuum? Where am I swinging? What do I need to do to bring me back into the green? And then I always say it's about making sure that you are putting yourself in credit. And credit simply means commit to developing your own post-surgery stress management toolbox, because that's what's going to help you reduce all of those other mental health issues. Recognize any changes in your thoughts, in your feelings, and in your behaviors. Experiment and find the best coping strategies and self-care plans for you. There is no one size fits all. It really is about personalizing something that is for you. You are fabulous, wonderful, and unique, and therefore you need to have something that works for that fabulousness. You need to develop your new skills to manage your mental health, and you need to identify your stressors and take action quickly. And for me, most importantly, talk to someone early on if you need to. Don't wait until it gets to worst case scenario. Get the support that you need sooner rather than later, because like I said, if you can, prevention is better than cure on those worst case scenarios. So very much to summarize, many pre-surgery candidates will experience mental health issues. That's what that's just simply how it is. Obesity has a strong connection to mental health. Mental health issues post-surgery can increase. Studies show that mental health symptoms can also reduce after surgery as well. So you've got to be aware, which is why you need to check in with yourself to see which category you're falling into. Medication and psychotherapy are recommended for mental health support post-surgery. You need to check in with your mental health regularly. Don't just focus on weight loss. Ultimately, who wants to be a skinny, miserable person? And being skinny and miserable should not be your goal. Healthy, happy, fabulous, that's your goal. And ultimately, it's your mental health, so it's your responsibility to look after it. And here's all my usual stuff. For those of you who don't know, that's all the books. That's all the books I've got out there. You can go to the website if you want any of them. I'm not going to do the hard sell. They're fab, they look pretty, blah. That's my hard sell there. So more importantly, what I did want to talk about is a giveaway that I would like to do. Well, I'd actually like to do it in February. So this is what my plan of action is in February. I want to be able to deliver 2 courses, okay? Course 1 is to do a live 8 Wise Ways course. So I deliver 8 Wise Ways courses, and I want to adapt it slightly, and I want to do that as 2 pilots, and I want to offer it out to you guys. So 8 Wise Ways, the course, it's 12-week modules delivered live and recorded on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. There is both the theory of all of the 8 Wise stuff plus the practical resources that you need, and there's a private group as well, and I plan to go live with this on the 1st. if this sounds like something you would like to do, normally I would charge £1,500 per person for this course. And if you are in this group, I'm offering it to 10 people as a pilot for free. 100% for free. So you'd get all of the weekly modules, you'd get access to the group, you'd get all of the stuff that you need, and it would literally take you through the entire process to make sure that you can improve your mental health and well-being with regards to whatever area of your life you want to. The only thing I'm asking, if this sounds like something you're interested in, the only thing I'm asking is that you can commit to all of the modules. That's because the book and the journal together actually create the workbooks for the course, that you just need to buy yourself them, but that's about 20 quid approximately, so the 20 quid is all you'd have to pay. Afterwards, you are willing to provide a video testimony about the course and provide online reviews such as Google and all of that kind of stuff. So that's if you want to do, if you're interested, that's a live course where I would do this type of thing on a weekly basis with you on a Tuesday evening at 8 o'clock. If you want to do it and you know you can't commit to doing lives, absolutely fine. And I also wanted to do this to make sure that, because we've got a lot of people from the States and other countries on here as well, what I'm going to do is do it as an online course only as well, where it'll be weekly modules still. They'll all be delivered via video and they'll be uploaded every Wednesday. And again, theory and practical, private stuff. Normally that's about £1,000, and I'm going to do that again free. And because it's by video, it's be for 20 people. So I'm looking for 10 if you want to do the live, and 20 if you want to do video only. Same rules, commit to all the modules, the book and for the workbook stuff, about 20 quid, video testimony, and that. Now, this offer is available, as I said, to both UK people and international members of this group. I'm not offering it anywhere else other than this group. And if anybody's interested, the sign-up date will be the 25th of January. So I don't necessarily need any answers today, but have a think about it if it is something. Again, I'm not doing the hard sell, that's what it is. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. It doesn't change anything in this group. That's it. But I want to offer it out. And that's my big giveaway for today. Come and have some free stuff. Come and have some free training, get some free support with regards to maybe if you've taken a dip or you want some support with your overall mental health and well-being using the formula I have talked about. And that is it, my lovelies. That is my fabulous, wonderful webinar, the best webinar you've ever seen. I hope you have found it useful and enjoyed it. And yeah, get in touch if you've got any questions about any of it. And I'm stopping the recording now, so thank you very much.